أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا الله سبحانه وتعالى and inshallah and the efforts in this beautiful gathering or the facilitation of this beautiful gathering as they promote by taking on the ayat of the Holy Quran. I do have a suggestion, although I don't have myself the physical Quran on me, if we can have the physical Quran. Although the apps are there on your phones, but it is actually rewarding to look at the ayat or the Quran, and so another of the Mus'haf may not apply on looking at the phone. Although you're looking at the Quran things, that it may not apply, and perhaps the benefit would be the beauty of the gathering being blessed with so many Quran being often that will witness our Quran on the day of judgment. So I would also encourage the young ones to also look at the Quran, put it before them and look at the Quran. There are Quran, at least not copies, so everybody holds this and do benefit from looking at the ayat of the Quran.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Also, I would ask everyone to, we do want to have it a little more interactive, so please do feel free to make your suggestions, make your comments, questions, if any, and if I'm able to answer those. Any suggestions in terms of how we could improve our gathering and each session, it would be definitely appreciated, definitely by myself, and I'm sure the host would appreciate those suggestions as well. We began the Surah Yunus, the 10th chapter of the Holy Quran. It is one of the surahs that are longer surahs that are revealed in Mecca. Why do I say longer? Because most of the surahs that were revealed in Mecca are the shorter surahs of the Holy Quran, and most of the longer surahs were revealed in, or the longest surahs were revealed in Medina, and they were revealed gradually, not in one entire surah, in one second. Nevertheless, Surah Yunus is one of the longer ones that was revealed in Mecca, early revelations. However, it seems to be based on the content of the surah. It seems to have come after a while of basically the message and revelation and many other chapters of the Holy Quran, the smaller ones perhaps. And a major part of it is to respond to those who are making accusations to the Prophet ﷺ or against the Prophet ﷺ and about the Quran and revelation and so on. So that's a major theme in the surah. Some may say Quran applies every day. In everyday life, Quran applies. And Quran applies for every age. It doesn't stop at that period of time. So how do we apply such chapters? This chapter, for example, the surah, How do we apply, understand this surah and apply it? The message for insan, as insan is growing earlier, we were speaking about this, human beings should mature collectively, both individually and collectively. Together we mature and grow. The message of the Holy Quran came to insan at that time in a gradual manner to first confirm the Risala, confirm the message, confirm the ayat from the wise, from the Almighty, confirming some of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as insan grew with it, it gave the ummah at that time and every ummah from then on, it gives continuous method or continuous guidance to mature to the better. Quran says about itself that it guides to what is better. So continuously it's guiding people to what is better. At that time, they needed years to go from the initial revelation and the initial ayat to these ayat of basically rebutting and responding to some of their accusations to eventually come to the further guidance and deeper guidance in the Holy Quran. That doesn't have to happen for every individual at the same, in the same, take the same length of time, at the same pace. It could take less, but it could take more. And for some, it may never even get there anywhere. And this is what Quran confirms. وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. Quran, the book of guidance, that is for muttaqeen. For the Zalimin, it increases to nothing except for in loss. They get into further loss because there's more proof against them. You've gotten all this guidance, all these proofs, and you continue to neglect and ignore them, therefore it is further loss. So, inshallah, we are faster in maturing, so we can grow through this. However, in everyone's mind, as a young boy growing, I have questions in my mind, and perhaps the youngsters now, they may have this question in their mind. How is Quran a miracle of God? How did God speak to a prophet? The Prophet it might cross their mind. How did that happen? If God didn't speak to me or doesn't speak to me, how is it that He spoke to someone else? If God didn't reveal to me, how is it that He revealed to someone else? This crosses the minds of many, especially perhaps our youngsters. In a Muslim household, this is more so the younger ones. And I do recall that very well. And I don't blame you if you have these questions, the youngster, if you have these questions. And part of maturing is reading Quran and reflecting on its ayat so that we understand, we get the answers to those controversies or those questions that may cross people's minds. And that is how people can go through the Quran. So it doesn't mean that this is only for the people at the time of its revelation in Mecca who were questioning, wondering, surprised, and so on. Rather, it continues to answer the questions to the people at different levels of their maturity. So, inshallah, as believers, we have the answers clear. In the Holy Quran, we take those answers, we reflect, and this is why this initiative is so wonderful. Honestly, without the Quran, we cannot live in it. The insan cannot mature without the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the complete message to insan, to humanity, through Rasulullah, and the Prophet confirmed that you need to hold into those things together to reach. ما إن تمسكتم بهما, meaning the Quran and the family of the Quran, the household of the Quran, the ones who are equated to the Quran, were partners of the Quran. In the ziyarah of the Imam of the time, some of the Mu'mineen, they recite, Assalamu alayka ya Khaliq al-Quran. Meaning what? He is the partner of the Quran. Without the Prophet, and after him, without Ahlul Bayt, the Imam of Ahlul Bayt, we could not even understand the Quran properly. They go together, but without the Quran itself also. Some people they hold well to Ahlul Bayt, but they think they can hold well to them without the Quran. They can't get anywhere. So we need both of them, inshallah, on this journey of purification and guidance and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We began in the beginning of the surah quickly, reading on the first ayah of the surah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We spoke a little about the Bismillah and the power of the Bismillah. The greatest ayah in the Holy Quran is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in Surah Al-Hamd. That is an ayah in itself. However, in every other chapter, the Bismillah is part of the beginning of that surah, and it should be understood with consideration to the content of the surah. Alif Lam Ra, we said these are the huruf al-mutaqatta'a, secrets of the Quran. Some suggestions are made here and there. One of them is that we use the same alphabet that we use, and look now at the miracle of the Quran, which is why the chapters that they begin with Alif Lam and all the huruf al-mutaqatta'a, after the huruf, there's a reference to the Quran. Alif Lam Mim, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب. Alif Lam Ra, tilka ayat. Immediately after those huruf, there is a reference to the Quran. So it is a suggestion that it is this is the miracle of the Quran. Although this is one, and this suggestion doesn't mean that it limits the meaning to this and nothing else. We know that Quran has depth, and this is what the Prophet tells us. Imam Khaliq alayhi salam, he says Quran flows with time, and Quran yajri. Therefore, one meaning doesn't nullify the other meaning or another application of the ayah. So Alif Lam Ra, tilka ayat al-kitab hakim. It says tilka as in so significant, so important, and so deep that we cannot put it in front of us and say this is what it is. It says that is. That as in something very important, very significant. Ayat, it says is ayat refers to the parts, the sentences or the parts of the surah in the Holy Quran. Though ayah in the Arabic language means a sign. And in Quranic terminology, ayah means a miracle. Remember, we said Musa alayhi salam, he had the 9 miracles. Yes, what were they referred to in the Quran? Ayat. So miracles are also known as ayat. Okay, an ayah is a miracle. It's a proof, a sign, a proof, a miracle. And therefore, Quran, every one of the ayat of the Quran is a miracle. Every one of the ayat of the Quran is actually a challenge. The Quran says, bring one ayah like it. Eventually, it goes from one surah to 10 ayat to the last challenge says what? Bring one ayah. Why the surah to 10 ayat to one ayah? Perhaps it took them time to understand the depth of the ayat of the Quran to understand and believe that they could not bring an ayah. Initially, the surah is so deep they could understand that there is depth there that we cannot come. 10 ayat. Eventually, when they realized how deep is the Quran, and when they came to ask the Prophet about what they thought they understood on the surface of it, but then he gave them further depth, they realized that they cannot even come up with one ayah of the Holy Quran, and therefore every one of them is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And al-kitab, we said, is there compiled book. Al-Kitab refers to the compiled book, and that is the Quran as we know it. It's a complete book. So Quran has always been Quran was never simply ayah after ayah that now we have to put it together. No, inna anzalnahu. He revealed it, the entire thing. Who here, the Dhamir, refers to the entire Quran. The entire Quran is revealed in Laylatul Qadr. So was that revelation before the gradual revelation or after? Obviously, it had to be before, because it wouldn't make sense to say we revealed the Quran after it was already revealed. Yes? So that complete revelation happened in Laylatul Qadr. It was released a book. تلك آيات الكتاب الحكيم, and we said Hakim refers to the book that is wise, or the book that has been put together with wisdom, as a fa'il that sometimes is the maf'ul. We gave examples of how sometimes in Arabic the format of fa'il means the maf'ul, the one that is done to. Like we said, Qatil. Qatil doesn't mean the one who kills, it means the one who is killed. Hakim could mean the one who has hikmah or who has been made with hikmah. Somebody else made him or it, and in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Quran with so much wisdom. The next ayah we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَكَانَ لِلنَّاسِ عَجَبًا. Is there a surprise for the people? And this question is question, and basically in itself is a response. In other words, what is the problem? Are people surprised? In other words, why are they surprised? It's already responding. How silly of them, or how backward of them, or how unintelligent of them to be surprised that God reveals. So we said there are three levels of the here. We surprise, and surprise for them, three levels. One is that they are surprised about what he said, that God does reveal. Is it possible that God reveals? Yes, it is. He has power over everything. So why that is a surprising thing for some? And we said people have, throughout the history of prophets, people question their prophets because I can't receive why it can be. Because I can't have that special status, why can he? So therefore, they have that question. Number one, that revelation itself. Number two, ila rajulin, revelation to a person, a man. A man versus who? Versus an angel. A revelation should come to a messenger who is an angel. In fact, malaika also are rusula. Quran refers to the malaika as well. Rusula. Malaika are messengers. And they come, and to individuals, every one of us, they inspire us, they guide us. Every one of us has malaika guiding them. Some get to the level where they can see and hear the angels, some only hear the angels, some do not even hear the angels, it's just thoughts that they go through in their mind. Some, through their purification, get to the level to, in fact, recognize the revelation or the inspiration or the speech or the reminders from the angel. They get to that level. Okay? In the level of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala questions, are you now questioning him about what he saw? In fact, he got to the highest level. And that's Sidratul Muntaha. He reached to the highest level in another chapter of the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirms that the Prophet not just hears, he sees. Okay, so he received, it doesn't have to be the malak or the person revealed to doesn't have to be a malak. And Quran confirms that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if there were the angels walking on earth, the messenger to them would be an angel. قل لو كان في الأرض ملائكة يمشون مطمئنين لبعث الله ملكا رسولا. So next level of questioning is minhum, and we said in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, he says that it is his favor and it is a miracle of him that he sent a messenger from the people. هو الذي بعث في الأميين تبعا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after his tasbih, he comes to say, he is the one. Now his might, his majesty, his strength, his omnipotence, his ability to do anything is represented in the fact that he sent a messenger from them, from the people. That itself is a miracle. Rasulan min. So this is a miracle in itself. He says, is it a surprise for him that the messenger is from them? So, أن أوحينا إلى رجل منهم أن أنذر الناس. This is where we were up to. أن أنذر الناس وبشر الذين آمنوا أن لهم قدم صدق عند ربهم. So the wahy was to what? The revelation was to what? To do al-indhar and al-tabshir. And this is why the Prophet is known as al-bashir and nadir. In the ziyarah, we recite al-bashir and nadir, as-siraj al-munir. Yeah. Why al-bashir and nadir? Because he has the task of doing those two things that God declared as the method of wahy. What is his wahy to the people? What should the Prophet come and do? What is his role? He comes to the people. I'm the messenger of God. To do what? And the nasa and bashir. Okay? The tabshir here, however, comes in a more specific group of people. So what does it say? And the nasa. As for indar, it's for all the people. Everybody should be warned. But who should be given the glad tidings? مؤمنين أحسنتم أن أنذر الناس وبشر الذين آمنوا. Tafseer here, the glad tidings, the good news, is for those who actually believe, for those who take advantage of the message. They listen to the indar, they're warned, and therefore they live their lives according to the warnings, according to the reminders, and therefore they deserve to be given the glad tidings that you are going to receive the mercy from your Lord, the blessings from your Lord. أن لهم قدم صدق عند ربهم. The glad tidings are so powerful here that they will have قدم صدق. Qadam is stepping, Qadam is also refers to the foot, the foot itself, or the foot as in where you step. Qadam is the stepping or the foot of truth. Literal translation here. Okay, so far, literal translation. But what does it refer? Qadam, perhaps one of the meanings is that when you reach somewhere, they say you have your foot there. Meaning what? Your place is there. You have now achieved the place. Okay? And this is supported with the next part where it says, "And the where is this place? With their Lord. And then Rabbihim, it is near or with their Lord. Rabb. This is one of the meanings, as in a place. Qadam. Why is the Qadam said? Because it is not like other fake promises. There are kings in this world who make promises, but their promise is not always true. When they have candidates now coming to election year today, How many promises do they make? Hundreds and hundreds. How many of them are true? God knows. Yeah. This is how it works in this world. Don't think it's only one party, one group, one country, one leader, one individual. No. This is how it works for worldly people, dunyawi people. Dunyawi people are full of lies. In fact, when they make those promises, if they make those promises without insha'Allah, without the recognition that illa ay yasha'Allah, if God will, when they make those promises, they have already told a lie. The problem there? Why? Our ulama can say when you make a promise in this world and you don't make it conditional to God's will, you are guaranteeing many things that you can never guarantee. Many. Can you guarantee that you will be alive the next second, the next day? We live our lives thinking that we're living forever. But in reality, our death could be any second. Yeah, this is one thing. Can you guarantee the life of the recipient of the promise? I'm going to do this for you. For whoever it may be, veterans, for the public, for the poor population, whoever is the recipient. Can you guarantee their life? You cannot. Can you guarantee that the conditions, all the conditions necessary for you to fulfill your promise will be there? You cannot. Can you even guarantee that you will not change your mind? Now that if you are telling the truth at that point, we have two types of lie. We have the lie of, in Arabic, they say, al-mukhbir wal-khabar. The lie of the one who's saying it and the lie of the news. Meaning what? Sometimes what you're saying, you don't mean it to be a lie, but you are telling a lie without knowing. Okay? So that is about the news. Sometimes you know that you're telling the lie. That's the teller. And the one who's telling it is telling the lie. In this case, if you are not a liar as the teller, as the mukhbir, meaning today you actually intend that you want to fulfill those promises that you're making, can you guarantee that tomorrow you won't change your mind? You cannot. So for all these things, I mean, change your mind, what does it take? Sometimes it may reach the level of insanity, losing your mind. In other words, any kind of promise without conditioning it or putting the condition there that it's only when and if God wills, any promise will be allowed. The promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the other hand, inna wa'adallahi haqq. It is the truth. The promise of God is clear. صادق الوعد. In the dua, we say, Ya صادق الوعد. Some people call some other humans. That is in fact the wrong title to use. A person with that in mind that whatever he promises will happen. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is صادق الوعد. He tells us it happened. This is why here he refers to in many ayat, anything to do with him, he refers to it as sin. The Qalam as here is referred to the place that is true. There's no doubt about it. And so this Bushra is 100% true. There's absolutely no doubt about the good news and the glad tidings from the Prophet ﷺ. He says, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنَّ لَهُمْ قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. It is with the Lord. We do everything in our life. We should be doing everything in our lives with the intention of قربة لله. إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب. Not just our prayer. A mu'min knows that a condition of the acceptance of salah is the niyyah of qurba. If you have been to Hajj or Umrah, the condition of the acceptance of your Hajj is the niyyah of nearness, the intention of nearness to God. So you're doing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain qurba ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? However, when you reach the higher level of faith, everything you do in life is so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says to his messenger and his people, ask him directly. He says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي, only salati wa nusuki, all active worship, only that, no, وَمَحْيَايَ, my life, and even all the way until the way I die. وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ. Here, قدم السكن عند ربهم. Then قال الكافرون, we said this surah is always basically responding. There's a lot of content in the surah in response to the accusation. What did the disbelievers say? Amazing. The answer came before the accusation. Right? So it's confirmed. And you listen to this and look at their false claim and accusation. قال الكافرون إن هذا لساحر مبين. The disbelievers, they say about هذا could be referring to the prophet or could be referring to the Quran. In the typical recitation of the surah, the recitation is Sahir. Although some of the reciters recited this ayah as Sihr. إِنَّ هَذَا لَسِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. Again, the type of recitation, which is from the Hafs and Asim, which is what most of us recite, it says لَسَحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. But there are some reciters who recite it as لَسِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. So there are some very fine differences here and there between the recitations, but it does not change the meaning. How so? سَحْرٌ مُبِينٌ, magician, سِحْرٌ magic. You might say that's different. One is referring to the prophet as a magician, the accusation. One is referring to his book as magic. Okay? And in terms of what they're claiming, it's the same thing. They claim that he is a magician. What is his magic? His magic is good, according to them. His magic is the Quran. It actually mesmerized all of them. So they said it's magic, it's affecting us. It is that sihr is what makes people see or think of something that is not true. Okay, that is sihr. Sihr in the Arabic language, it is what makes people think that something that appears in a certain way. Somehow the magician makes you think that this is what he's doing, this is what he's doing, when in actual fact he's not doing that. That is what sihr is. And the mu'jiza, the miracles of the Anbiya, is in response to the magic. So for instance, at the time of Musa alayhi salam, magicians, what was their magic? They made certain things appear to people as if it is living from the dead. They're breathing life into something dead. What was the example? They brought the snake from the ropes. Yeah, they brought ropes. Quran says they made people think that it is that is moving like a snake. يخيل إليهم. They made people believe that. سحروا أعين الناس. Another ayah in the Quran says they, in fact, affected سحروا here to put some sort of an effect on a person, on that magic effect on their eyes. So they made people see it in the way they want them to see it, and made them believe the way they want them to believe, but in actual fact, it was not true. What happened to the magicians when they saw the miracle of Musa alayhi salam? His staff turned into the snake. What did they do? They all went to prostration, submitted that this is the miracle. Who could recognize it first before everybody else? Magicians. Why? Because they're familiar with that. That's their trade. Their trade is to somehow, what do they say, pull the wool over people's eyes? That's the expression. That's their trade. They do that and make people see it in the way they want them to see it and believe that it is what they want them to believe. But in actual fact, that's not what it is. So that's their method. That's their trade. When they saw the real deal, they realized that this is true. They immediately recognized it as true, and therefore they went into prosperity. At the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what people were most excited about was actually poetry, literature. Arabia, the Arabs, their pride was literature. And up until today, I do not believe humanity has any language as sophisticated and as elaborate and as expressive as Arabic. None. You cannot find it. You go there, people, I mean, at a PhD level, my own, two of my siblings, one male, one female, so you don't say there's bias. They have done higher level of linguistics at university, studying multiple languages. One of them did his PhD on that in literature, and his PhD was in actually the character of Khaliq, the compiler of they confirm, and many professors and linguists confirm, nothing as sophisticated, as elaborate, as detailed as the Arabic language. It works like mathematics. You know, the conjugation, the science of thought. It's something you cannot find anywhere. The closest you could get to it in terms of the Latin languages, perhaps French, for instance. But it has so many exclusions and exceptions, and it doesn't reach not even a portion of what the Arabic can. And imagine those people living, hands, whatever you want to call it, those people had this language. For them, their pride was their language and their ability in language, in poetry. That was their pride. After them, when in fact it was after Islam and the spreading of Islam that you have, for instance, the Persian poets, the famous Persian poets came after them, Urdu poets after them. And those, they mastered poetry by mastering Arabic first. You'll find that the best poets in Iran, in Persia, or in Urdu, they mastered Arabic. They were able, many of them were able to, they had memorized Quran. In fact, one of the very famous ones in Iran is known as Hafiz. Why Hafiz? Because he had memorized, he had memorized the Quran. He is known as one of the suggestions that his title of Hafiz is because of Hafiz of the Quran. Okay, so he had memorized the Quran. He was so familiar with the literature of the Quran and the Arabic literatures. Through that, he became one of the best Persian poets. Same thing with the Urdu language. You have, for instance, Allama Iqbal. Beautiful poetry, very deep and so on. When he adds the Arabic touch to it, it goes to a different level. And those who are familiar with the language, they know what I'm saying. In fact, in the entire, I guess, subcontinent, the beauty in the language came through the influence of Arabic. Otherwise, the rest of it is, and this is the rest of it. That is how, in fact, beautiful and powerful Arabic is. And to those who pride themselves on the Arabic language and poetry and literature, they realize that this is not something we are capable of. You see where the miracle is? Magicians realize that this miracle of Musa alayhi salam is not something they're capable of. It's beyond insan, beyond human. They recognize it as a miracle of God. Yeah? The Arabs, at the peak of their literature, in fact, up until today, when they want to look at the meaning of the words and verbs and so on, the roots of the verbs, they go back to the literature of that time, the time of the revelation and around the Jahiliyyah. They go back to that and look at the poetry about the usage of certain terms in poetry, what the poet uses it for, and therefore that is the meaning. And that's how they apply it. Well, I mean, you look at any of the books of Arabic to Arabic dictionaries, especially the deeper ones, they go back there. All of them, they go back there. They were at their peak. And at their peak, Quran came with a miracle that they could not match. So this came first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are the signs. تِلْكَ آيَاتُ الْكِتَابِ الْحَكِيمِ. Then comes back here and says, قَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ. The kafir, the unappreciative liars are now saying that Quran is what? Magic. Or the prophet is a magician. إِنَّ هَذَا لَسَاحِرٌ مُبِينٌ. In other words, already Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the response to it, and in the end put their accusation as a reminder for them and for others to listen. Listen to what they said. Look at what it is, and listen to what they have to say about it. How are we going with time? Questions? Okay, so inshallah we will,
then we can continue, but if there's questions.
Yeah, let's, I'll pause a little bit and I'll hear more from you. Yes.
You talked about how the Arabs at that time had a really high level of Arabic and they could see, they were mesmerized by the Quran. Is there a way that we can see that, reach that? Is there a way that we can understand that?
Yeah.
The response that they had to the beautiful language.
Excellent. So how do we reach that level of, I'm rewarding it and confirming that how do we reach that level of comfort and realization of the miracle of the Quran today, like they did? So if we are, I mean, one thing is to understand the beauty of the Quran properly, we need to learn Arabic. That is, it's a no, there's no compromise on that. Okay, we cannot, and this is what you see in the early Muslims, whether they were Persian, Roman, Indian, any other nation that became Muslim and they were non-Arab, their focus was Arabic. To the point that some of the best and the top linguists of the Arabic language that we know of today are non-Arabs. Some of it, in fact, some of our scholars suggest that every one of the famous ones was non-Arabs, or were non-Arabs, every one of them. Now, there are some, I would definitely disagree that there were every one of them. There were some linguists, but the highest ones that we know of are non-Arabs. That's the reality. If you look at, for example, the famous linguist who, up until today, his book is called Suyuti. Okay, Suyuti was non-Arab. Sibawayh, non-Arab. Many of those highest level Arabic linguists, they were not Arab. Why? Because they realized the only way to appreciate Quran, the way it should be appreciated, is to learn Arabic. So I urge mu'mineen and mu'minat to work on understanding the Quran itself, not the translation. I try and, as we're going through terms, I try and translate the terms individually for that reason, so that we become more familiar with the Quranic the terms of the Quran. For example, a Muslim prayer, okay? If they want to read Surah Al-Fatiha at the same time think of the translation, they're not going to get far. But if you know the meaning of each particular word in the surah, then there's more of a chance of us, in fact, really getting that spirituality that we could get and benefiting from the meanings and the depth of the ayat of the Quran. So the first things first, if we want to really appreciate Quran, we need to understand Arabic. The more we understand Arabic, the more we would appreciate the Quran. The other thing is, yes, we can appreciate Quran in any language. Any language you read the Quran, you can appreciate the Quran. Obviously, with the precondition of Iman in general, not Iman bil Quran. I have to clarify this. Faith and belief in general, not a mind of one who is always skeptical. A person who is skeptical will not be able to see the miracles, to appreciate the miracles. So if one with that mindset of ibadah, of searching for truth, not skeptical about truth, not questioning or not finding a reason to deny. No, with that intention of reading to see the truth. With that intention, they read the Quran, they appreciate it. They will see the miracles in the Quran. And the more we read, the more we will get there. وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. It is through the ibadah that we can get yaqeen. It's like it's a cycle, works together. You worship, and this is literally what we read. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It's a cycle. We seek help from you, so we worship you. We worship you, so you help us more. And it keeps on going. Okay. So the more we read with that intention, the more we would appreciate. I hope that answered. If you need to clarify, please feel free.
Question
Yeah.
about the word Bashir. Because the prophets were sent as Nadiran and Bashir.
Bashir.
So this is a different surah though, because usually, like in this case where we were discussing, it's Bashir al-Ladina Aman, right? So you would imagine that would be wherever that happened.
Yeah.
But in Surah An-Nisa, in verse number 138, it says Bashir al-Munafiqina bi'anna lahum adhaban.
Very good. So in that context, Bushra is not always good news, to be clear. Okay. So Bushra is news. Most of the time, it's used for good news. In that particular ayah, it's referring to bad news, obviously, for them. So, adab. And literally, the Bashir al-Munafiqeen. There's a Bushra for Munafiqeen. Why Bushra for Munafiqeen? Well, let's look at what the Bushra is, or what the news is. And the news is adab that is very painful.
Okay, I was wondering if that was just a tone of sarcasm
okay.
being used, or if it was actually a different meaning.
No, it's not necessarily sarcasm. I see where it came from. It's not necessarily sarcasm, but it has that element in it, meaning what? If there's any news for you, that's the news. So it starts with that saying, you're expecting news. Why would someone, that's why it's munafiqeen, not kafirin in that particular ayah. Why would somebody pray? We hopefully, people who are believers, not munafiqeen, they pray to get the glad tidings, the good news. And what are the good news? قربة إلى الله, to nearness to God, being عدم فتن عند ربهم, all of the beautiful things, the gardens and so on. So what is the bushra for these people? You're praying, because munafiqeen, what? They act like believers. They pray, they fast, some of them went to the battlefield with the Prophet ﷺ. Obviously, they were the first to run away and cause more trouble for the Prophet and for the believers. Nevertheless, they were there. Okay, so what is the good news for you? Or what is the, it's almost in that, like what you want news? this is your news. You know? So in that, but Bushra, although normally it brings to the mind that it's good news. But if you want to clarify in Arabic, if they want to say good news, they say Bushra Sarah. A news that will bring happiness. So they say Bushra Sarah, Surur, Sarah from Surur. So they use that, they use the Sarah in conjunction with Bushra to clarify that here we're only speaking about good news that would bring happiness. So it is typically understood as good news within itself, but it doesn't, it is not exclusive to good news. That's any other comments or questions? Thank you. Really, we get some deep wisdom here with reflections and comments and questions. So we
A few more minutes. And actually, I wanted to also mention we have a Quran that we got, which has a it has translation and also reflections. You want to show me? You wanted to do like a short, what is one of the weeks in film? The kids can participate also.
okay. Fine.
So maybe one of the weeks we can do a quiz, and whoever gets as many right, they can get a copy of this. It's
Okay, so this would be a gift for
a gift
the
for
winners.
the winners. So Sheikh will be preparing a quiz one day, inshallah.
Inshallah. So we'll have a quiz based on what we
Based on what we're discussing, you know.
So it'll be a fair quiz. We've already discussed it, so you should know the answers. And I'll try and make sure that it's something that we said more than once. Okay. I typically try to repeat so that some of these things I remember, but we'll try and do that. Thank you. That's wonderful. So we can have the elders more excited. The youth don't, or is it that way around? Inshallah, we have that as well.
We have a few more minutes if everyone is okay, and then we can continue. And
yeah.
The beginning we talked about the maturation. Is that referring to specifically intellectual maturation? Because now there's science and so we're evolving, getting smarter and smarter. Or is it the spiritual maturation that's what we talked about? Is it something else? Can you describe that a little bit?
As a human being, I'm referring to as a maturity at the level of humanity, as a human being, as an insan. And that requires both. You cannot get to just information. Okay? If you advance in terms of understanding how the cosmos works and how the atoms and the protons and electrons and whatever, whether you go on the smallest level or the larger scale, whichever. If you advance in terms of information, but that doesn't make you understand the world. That's not complete. And so we cannot say that we understand the world as a scientist, as a physician, at any level. We cannot say that we understand the world if we just understand some angles, some aspects of it, how it works. One of our great scholars, he says, in the past, people used to believe in miracles because they didn't understand how things work. As they understood how they work, they should, in actual fact, realize that how much more sophisticated it is. And so it actually should display God's greatness and magnificence. But instead, for some, it took them the other way around. Oh, we understand, so there's no need to see God in the equation. But hold on, you cannot even have a beginning that the one who is from the beginning, who al-awwal wal-akhir So you cannot understand the world without God in the picture. And so if one has that advancement in terms of science and technology, it should lead, and if someone is truthfully looking for truth, it would lead them to more understanding of God. It was quite a few years ago, I think 10 or something years ago, that I remember I was given an email from my government. It was an email about scientists who had achieved, I think it was a Nobel Prize on medical imaging or digitalized medical imaging. I think that was the title of it. And what he did and what he was actually showing was he had implemented camera and some means of basically taking videos and at the same time digitally adding colors to it and advancing it, making it 3D to bring about the journey of the fetus from its inception all the way to birth. And amazing how when he was describing it, and you would be looking at the details of it, and the guy every few seconds he would use, or every now and then he would use the term divinity, God, divine. This is divine. This is like he kept on saying it because at that level you cannot see anything without understanding. There's so much more than what we see that we don't understand. We understand something, but there's so much that we cannot understand. He said the one cell, the one egg cell, that how could it have the information? All the information it takes to develop from that to birth, including where eyes will be, where the heart will be. One of the first things that develop is the heart, actually, start beating. Okay, and from that early on, and then eventually the skin cells, the eyes, the thumbs on the surface, some shall decide I'm going to be the eye. Okay, and then multiply, and all of them they know where to come in this proportionate, beautiful creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ, made him complete, perfect, beautiful, balanced. That's what we're here is about balance. Even so balanced, so beautiful. Every one of the cells knows what to do, where to be, and how to behave from then on, from that single beginning. So in all fields, science would lead to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it goes hand in hand. Maturity of insan will happen when we advance on every level, social level, obviously intellectually, but we understand, social justice better. We understand other systems, all in the presence of the Creator, Allah. Okay.